Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Forge Hub YouTube channel. Today we have a very special guest for you. He is a old forager who's now working at 343 and a very good friend of mine that I've known for a while. Would you introduce yourself, Tyler?
Hey, I'm Tyler Ensrude. I'm a level designer at 343, and like you said, I came from the Forge background.
Nice, nice. How long would you say that you've been in the Forge community overall, whether that be of course, like, we've all been in the Forge community, like, pretty early on to some extent, and by that I mean more or less, like, we're, like, just kind of messing around with the tool, but then also we have our phase where we're more, like, into it. Where are you in that type of spectrum?
Yeah, I started back in 2007 when Halo 3 first launched, and the day that the game came out, I was in my basement with my brother, and we launched Forge. We didn't know what it was, but we just started playing it, and it was a really simple tool to just move weapons and spawn points on a map, and that was the start of what became a really in-depth hobby of forging and just making levels for the game. So I started back in 2007 on day one of Halo 3, and I've been kind of doing it with each mainline Halo title that has come out. It's been a huge hobby of mine over the years, and after the release of Halo 5, I kind of used that as a springboard to make a portfolio of a bunch of stuff that I have made in Forge, and use that as a application to apply to 343 Industries. And it's actually interesting because Tom French is the guy who he's now the multiplayer director, but he was the person in charge of Halo 5's Forge. So he ended up making all those crazy tools that allowed Forge to kind of become this bigger and better tool for community members. And with those better tools, I think my skills and a lot of other people's skills kind of developed because of that. And luckily enough, Tom wanted to bring community members in to help develop Halo. And having worked in like exclusively in Forge and stuff, it was a great opportunity to kind of do that. So we'd been talking about that, and then ironically, it's actually kind of a neat story, but 10 years on the dot later, I had received the offer to work at 343 Industries on Halo 3's 10th anniversary. So that was pretty sweet.
Nice. Especially with, well, I guess technically speaking, the new Forge Lord is Michael Shore, but the old Forge Lord, Tom French, did a lot with Halo 5, and it's really nice to see how you've grown as a whole. As like I've known you since H2A, which is coming up on its 10-year anniversary too. But whatchamacallit, it's really crazy to see how much like Forge has improved over time, and especially in Halo 5, and how much like we as forgers have like improved over time. Like I've seen your stuff since 2A, like I said, and like it's been really great to see how all that like evolves over time.
Yeah, I know. Tom, for example, in Halo 5's Forge, he did such an incredible job of making that tool so much better and so much more user-friendly, like just something that can really empower the people using it. So it was just a huge step up from Halo 4's. And I know Michael Shore, who's the new Forge lead, he's been doing basically that kind of same thing for Halo Infinite's Forge. It's going to be a really cool big step up from Halo 5's in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of excitement to be had. There's a lot of cool stuff on the horizon.
That's really good to hear, and I can't wait to hopefully get more info than the redo button that we got. I think it's like 3 years ago now at Outpost. hopefully we get some more info on that soon. It's great to hear that the redo button and undo button is going to be in there though, as that's been requested for a while.
That's a huge one on its own.
Yeah, hopefully hopefully like other things that we've wanted will come into the Forge at some point, whether it be there at launch or not, since Halo 5 had a lot of things that were added in over time, so hopefully Infinites will have the same thing when it comes to features. My next question for you actually would be, what would be some things that have inspired you in your level design over time? So like, whether that be a game, people, developers, etc.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest inspirations for me looking back was Halo 3. It's where I got my start with this kind of stuff. But I think just also the multiplayer roster of maps was super unique, and compared to other games, like there was so much creativity and uniqueness amongst all of them, both like how they played and how they looked, that it was just super inspirational. And whether you liked them or not, they're pretty iconic for what they are. So that game as a whole, I think, was incredibly inspiring to me. But also there was just a really, really great community of people forging throughout the beginning of that era all the way till now. Like, there's tons of people that I've made friends with, and some of my best friends actually I've met through Forge. I mean, we've met through Forge too. Like it's a really cool community. Yeah, it's a family, and there's a lot of opportunity for people to come together and inspire each other and make cool stuff and collaborate and all sorts of stuff like that. So there's a lot of people that I could say that I think inspired me over the years. And specifically, there's a few gamer tags that I remember from back in the day, and that's the only way I know them, is through their gamer tags. So there was just shout out to like Gunner Grunt, Element, Rorak Kuroda, Urban Myth, Multi Lock On, Cowboy Pickle. Oh man, there's so many people that it's hard to keep track of, but there's just this huge community of people who are making really cool stuff, and it was inspiring me to try to do that too, try to be as creative and cool as they could do.
Yeah, it's quite insane how many people have actually been in the community like over the years, and how like people have evolved. Like honestly, like I've known you for pretty much 8 years now, coming up on 10. I've known like Multi and all them, like you mentioned. It's quite crazy that like how many people have come up with us and that we've stuck with and have like influenced our designs and all that type of stuff. Like it's really cool. When it comes to like feedback and all that type of stuff, they're always very paramount as well, because they're people you trust for feedback. Like they'll give good feedback. How would you recommend, like for new forgers, how would you recommend them taking feedback, or like where to start with feedback, I guess is the best way to put that?
I think if you are making maps in Forge and you're looking for feedback, just you need to be hosting custom lobbies and just in general get people playing. That's just a great starting point to kind of get people to talk about what it is that you've made. And it's really important to think about what you're hoping to achieve with the map and like what your goals are. And then when people are giving their feedback, it's up to you to kind of interpret that and maybe dig a little deeper into what their experience was on the map, and try to think about what they're saying and get to like a deeper meaning to what they're saying.
Yeah.
So
when it comes to like harsh feedback, how would you recommend like people like taking that? Because like of course sometimes people can be kind of passionate when they give feedback. Of course, there's the infamous joke in like the Forge community of needs more Y button, when the Y button was still the delete button, or like I think you should restart from scratch, things like that. How would you recommend to like not combat but take feedback like that?
I think you just need to think about. I think the same idea applies. Like get them to if they are giving negative feedback, that's part of the job too. So you got to kind of ask them, like, what about it do they not like? What about it could be better? Like, what about it didn't meet the mark for them, or stuff like that. And sometimes you'll get feedback that's super useful. Sometimes you'll get some that's not useful at all. If somebody doesn't give you any useful data, then you can just ignore it. I think generally it's a good idea to get as much coverage on stuff as you can. So test with like a wider net of people, get a bunch of different opinions in there. It might be hard at first, but try to break out from like just your close friends group of maybe like 1 or 2 people that you're talking with, and just try to get some different experiences on the stuff. So I think that's a good way to go about that.
100%. When it comes to like how you've taken feedback in the Forge community versus how you've taken feedback in the games industry, how would you say that's changed between the mediums?
I think generally it's pretty similar, but in a professional setting, the perspectives are kind of different, right? So in Forge lobbies and stuff, you're getting pretty raw player feedback and what it's like to just play things, and developers have their own kind of unique perspective of what's working, what's not working through lived experience. I know I've worked with a lot of designers on Halo 5 even specifically, who gave me like a lot of good insight for like player traversal or pathing and feedback around that kind of stuff. So there's just 2 different perspectives that help you kind of gain your own perspective on how to make things and how to go about reacting to feedback and stuff. So it's all super useful regardless, but there's like different avenues I think about it.
Nice. When it comes to like you said, you've worked with some other developers from like some of the Halo 5 stuff, work like with feedback and all that type of stuff, for like player pathing and all that type of stuff. What would you say has been the best part about working in the games industry, like as a whole? Would it be like all your connections? Would it be like something more like just like living out like your dream or your like secondary dream, or what would you say would be like the best part about working in the games industry as a whole?
I think it's a 2-part answer for me. And the first part is all of the really cool and creative people that you get to work with. I've met a ton of developers who are super passionate and have tons of cool ideas, who've helped me grow as a designer, and helped me think about things in different ways. And just watching them work and do cool stuff is incredible. I think another aspect that is probably the most special about working in the industry is watching your product or the things that you have made go out to the public, and getting people to kind of experience the things that you've designed and worked on.
Yeah.
That is a huge, like, that's really special.
Especially with the scope of something like Halo and like the players that play Halo and stuff like that, like even that is like a tremendous amount compared to like your Forge maps that you would make. Like sometimes the Forge map wouldn't even get like 100 plays, sometimes it wouldn't get 10 plays. Like it's like a lot different than Forge in a lot of ways, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing Forge stuff, your scope is obviously the Halo community, right? Like it's the people involved in Forge lobbies and wanting to do this kind of stuff on their own. So you're, like, it's hundreds of people, thousands of people maybe. Typically it's part of like these communities that you find on forums and stuff like that. But when it's in a professional setting, it is, it's just so vast. There's millions of people who've played and experienced the things that you've worked on, and that is mind-blowing. Like that's like that's a really cool and special feeling alone. And I think one of the things that my coworker Cliff and our friend Cliff, he mentioned to me at one point, like, isn't it crazy how a long time ago we were on like Christmas Day or something, opening up a present and getting our hands on like an old copy of like Halo 3, and just like seeing that and loading it up for the very first time, and like what that experience was. And now there's like a whole new generation of people who are going to have that same feeling and same kind of experience that we did, but now we're on the other side of the fence. And that is a really, really cool thing to experience.
Yeah, that must be an insane thing to experience, especially like just even thinking back on like reflecting on my own like past, like I don't like, granted, like when you get a new game, of course that feeling's always there initially, but like when it comes to like intensity, I don't think I've actually like felt that type of like intensity for that since like, I don't know, probably Black Ops 2.
Sure, yeah. I mean, when you have that feeling, right? Like it's this strong love of a game, and that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's quite insane. Honestly, like one of the things that comes with like this powerful emotions, of course, is always like just good memories, which is always nice to be able to reflect on. And I bet it's even better with the game industry stuff, like you were saying. When it comes to the game, like your time there at 343, what would you say has been like the hardest thing to like transfer between Forge and game dev?
I think one of the hardest things for me was, over the course of Forge, you develop all of these skills that kind of touch all the different avenues of making a level. So there's the geo and like the layout of the map and how it plays, but there's also the art and how it looks, and the lighting, and maybe there's scripting and all sorts of stuff like that. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about working on a level. And so for level design specifically, one of the hardest things I think for me was transitioning to not personally be doing all of that stuff at the same time. But luckily, there's, I might not be doing the art myself per se, but luckily there's a team of really talented artists who are doing a way better job than I ever could have. So it was kind of hard to give up some creative control in that sense, but it definitely is worth it in the long run. When you start seeing art come into your level for the first time, it's a really, really great feeling.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you're also able to like give like some sort of like mini description, I guess is a way to put that, to like kind of give them an idea of what you were going for with the map, which is still a little bit of your own touch.
Yeah, I think from concept, at the very beginning stages of making a level, it's the level designer's job to convey what they want to make, right? So you still have that control and like that influence, but it might not be exactly what you thought it was going to be, because it's up to the artist's interpretation of what it is you're trying to achieve too. So you can convey all the ideas that you want to for a map, but at the end of the day, like, there's going to be a whole team of really talented artists who are going to come in and either make what you made look better or interpret it in a different way and just make it just as cool as you probably thought, but in a different way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, like, it seems like the artists and you like have like really close knit to some extent too, because like I'm sure like you guys communicate all the time, like when they're talking to you about like maybe like any type of geo change that maybe they need to make for like a specific piece of art, or like any changes that maybe they could ask you if you could do. Like I'm guessing that you communicate with them pretty much constantly with that as well.
Yeah, there's a bit of partnership too. So like a level designer owns their map, and they, you know, um, they kind of do what they need to do to make sure the gameplay stays the way that they're kind of designing and hoping for, and like the goals they're trying to achieve. But also, there's an art lead on a map too, and so sometimes there's a bit of give and take and compromise between two people to kind of achieve the vision that two different people have for the same thing.
Well, thank you so much, Tyler, for coming out and taking this interview. I know that we kind of messed up the first recording, but it's all water under the bridge. We got it done.
No worries. It's all part of the process, right?
Exactly, all part of the process. But would there be anything else you'd like to say to the foragers, whether new or old, or anyone else that could be watching this video before we sign off here?
Yeah, I guess just, thank you to all of the people who helped inspire me and helped me grow along the way, all of the foragers and the community members. You played a huge part in my life, whether you realized it or not. It's been amazing, talking to you, hanging out with you, and working with you. And I've met most of my actual real life best friends through Forge, and the Halo community in general. It's a great community at its heart, and there's a lot of cool people involved. And I'm super thankful for even Tom French, who gave me the first shot at getting into the industry through the tools that he made. And I don't know, it's just Halo can be pretty great, and the people who are involved with it are pretty great too.
That's awesome, man. I'm really appreciative that you came out here and did this, and hopefully we'll actually meet each other at Worlds this year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you everybody again so much for watching, and thank you of course again to Tyler for coming out and doing this interview. We will have another Creator Spotlight interview next month, but I hope you guys enjoyed and stuck to the end of this video, or finished reading the transcript, whichever one. But again, I hope everyone enjoyed the content, and remember, let's forge new Halo.